Hi, welcome back. Today I'll be discussing the hands-on with the use of an array, but before we're going to start with our hands-on, just a quick review about the array. If you can remember, I discussed the theory about the array. Now, what is exactly an array again? Okay, well, if we want to store, meaning an array, it stores a sequence of values that are all of the same type. We want not just to store values, but also to be able to quickly access its individual value. And the method that we use to refer to individual values in an array is to number and then index them if we have n values. So we can think of them as being numbered from 0 to n-1. Now, there are 3 distinct steps that you need to remember with the use of arrays. So these 3 distinct steps I'm talking about is actually the first thing that you need to do is actually declare the array name. This is the need to consider. Second, you need to create the array. Third is initialize the array values. Alright, so these are the steps that you need to check before starting with the hands-on. Now, we can also refer an array element by putting its index in square brackets after the array name, the code. Let me say, if your what you call this one, your array would be like this. Let me just type in example A, then value of A would be 0. Then the next value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then assuming this is up to 7. Okay, let me just finish up this one, 6, 8, and 7. By default, it is actually assigned as like this. A, then maximum would be 8. It doesn't mean that you have to start counting from 1 to 8. Doesn't mean like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No. But instead, you have to start counting like this, which is the 0, right? This one 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 indices. Let me say, for example, we're going to make an array of n numbers of type double, and we're going to initialize it to 0. Example, if you're going to initialize it before I start with our coding, let me say, I'll just write down here double, then your array, which is value to A. This is how we're going to declare the array. Now, A, we're going to assign the value of A to new double, what's our data type, then N. This is trying to create the array for this part. Now, we're trying to create the array. So, assuming we're going to have the for loops, for, then int I, assign the value 0, then I less than n, semicolon, then I, and plus plus. So this is what we call the elements are indexed from 0 to n-1. Okay, can I? Okay, we just put it down here to n-1. Alright. However, if we're going to say A, then this one, value to 0, like this, we are trying to do the initialize all elements to 0.0. That's how you're going to interpret it, right? Okay, and before I forgot, there are two types of array, which is the, what you call this one, single dimensional array, and the second one is multi-dimensional array. Now, there's one thing that I forgot to mention. This is about the syntax in declaring an array in Java. So, how it should be done? Okay, let me type again. Example, we had here our data type as a variable name, then a r. Okay, this is actually the syntax, or you can say data type, then the R1, there's spacing. Try to observe. There should be spacing here. The previous one, the bracket, is closer to the type, and the second one is farther from the data type. So this is also valid. Another one is data type, then ARR bracket, sorry. This is also valid. Now, you might ask, what does it mean by instantiation of an array in Java? The way you're going to declare it would be like this. When we're talking about, okay, let me just erase this one. We're talking about the instantiation. All right, let me type again clearly. Instantiation of an array in Java. So the way you're going to write this in your syntax would be like this. Array, example, this is the name of your variable. You can actually name it in a different way, but the keyword here is actually the new, then data types, and then the size. So the only special keyword here is actually this one, the new, okay? But the data type and the array ref is only a variable name. You will be the one to create for that one. Right, let's have some sample program. And this sample program, we're going to illustrate how to declare, instantiate, initialize, and traverse the Java array. We will call this one as a test array. Okay, let me create a new file here. I'm going to name this as a sample array. This is the very basic one, the Java. So this will be the name of my file for my class, and I hope that I will be able to create one. Now, supposed to be in here, we're going to write in. Okay, let me close this one first. There's kind of noise outside. Since the name of our class is sample, oops, let me finish off this one first. Okay, semicolon. So from here, I can start. Why this? I'm getting an error. Well, we'll check this one later. Are you moving? Okay. Now, I'll type down here, public. This is the reason. Public static void main, then going to put here string, then our bracket. This is actually like an argument. You can also write this way. Okay, where are you? You're not displaying. Okay, there you are. Okay, and with our bracket, now here we're going to declare int, then a, assuming it's a variable in our bracket for an array, then new int showing the size of this is 5, we are trying to make a declaration on this part. This one. I'll just type here declaration and instantiation part. Okay. So notice here, int a. Okay. As you notice, there's an underline which is yellow. Therefore, here the value of the local variable a is not used. Well, we haven't used it yet because we just declared now. We're trying to declare it. So let's finish up this one. Now I'm going to assign a value for a, which is 0, as a start, meaning I'll put here 10. This is actually the equivalent for initialization. Okay, just click this one so I don't need to type in. The green color here is just a comment. It's just a guide, okay? Don't be confused. Now, for my next value, which is 1, I'm going to assign this to 15. Example, another value. Let me finish out this. Okay, 2, then I can assign here 20. Next is a, then 3. Let me say this is 25. Then last array. Okay, this is 4. And the equivalent to 30. Example. Now we assign these numbers to our array. First, it was assigned in here. Take a look on this one. Our size is actually 5. Okay, this is our size, which is 5. And supposed to be we're going to have 5. But in array, you're not going to count it as 1 to 5, but instead you have to count from 0s to 4. So therefore, we can only assign up to here a 0 up to 4. That's the reason why we only had here an array which is up to 4. Because you will get an error if you add here 5. Okay, you'll get an error. Now let's finish up this one. We're going to traverse the array in here. Okay, example using the for loops, int, then I'm going to assign it to I, just for demonstration purposes. Then I less than a, referring to this one, the one that we declared initially. Then we're going to call out the value length. This one, the length. Now the length is referring to this one, the 5 in here. Okay, the size for a. Now the a is referring to a specific value of our index. Okay, for this, and let's print out this one. Okay, why did I add here, bro? Now we can also put here sys out. Okay, let me set a shortcut. Then I'm going to call up, okay, anyway, just call out here a bracket, then I, referring to this one, this part. So this part will call out the value length, the size, and how many of them? This one, 1, 2, 4. So if you're going to run this code, let's try to run this one. Let's try to wait what will happen into our code. Let me check, make it bigger. There you are, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So this is our output. Okay, now what are the advantages in using Java, if you can remember the advantages and disadvantages in using Java? Well, one of the advantages of Java or array in Java is you can have the code optimization. It makes the code optimized. We can retrieve and sort the data efficiently. And another one is random access. It means we can get any data located at an index position, just like this. Index position. This is our index position or specific index. The only disadvantage of using a Java array is that the size limit. We can store only the fixed size of the elements in the array, and it doesn't grow its size at runtime. So to solve this problem, we need to have a collection framework that needs to be used in Java, which grows automatically. Okay, now let's add another example. So this is the very simple sample with the use of Java array. Okay, now let me show you another example. I'm going to call this one as another sample array 1. So going to create a new file. So I'm going to put this one as maybe just a word test or sample array 2. Okay, that Java. So it will now create another one. So from here, same process. I'm going to type here, then I'll just select this one so I don't need to type it again. Then we try to initialize it again to A, then bracket, since we're using an array. Then assuming our value here, okay, this program will try to illustrate the use of, again, the declaration, instantiation, and initialization Java array in a single line. Okay, when we are talking about the single line, or we can, let me just write it down here. It would be like this. You have to use a curly bracer. Let me say 20, then 25, then 30, then 40. Okay, example, this is the value of our what we call declaration, instantiation, and initialization on this part. Okay, let me just type in here then so you'll not be, you can remember it. Declaration, instantiation, and part of initialization. Okay, there you are, initialization. Okay, now I forgot to put a semicolon on here. Okay, now let me proceed. So we will also use recombine for loops for int. Let me say I'm going to use the I again, assigned to 0, then semicolon I less than, and we're going to call out the value of A. So this one, the value of A. So put here A dot followed by the length, right? We're going to click on or type in here the length. Okay, I'll just simply click on here and then increment. So for this case, we're trying to get the length. Okay, this part, this is what we call length is the property of array. Okay, this will be your guide. Now, then so from here, let's try to double check again if we get some error in this part. Okay, now from here I can say sys out, just a shortcut. So I don't need to keep on typing the whole thing again. Okay, A colon I. Now we will be printing up here the value of I, which is referring to this one, sample array. Okay, now look at the code. We miss one. Did I miss one? Okay, there's supposed to be another Okay, there you are. Why getting this error? Syntax error I, delete this token. Temporary. Why I'm getting this error? Why? Let me check my code again. Where I get the error. I less than I plus plus. So, how come I get this error? This one is referring to the I. Let's try to run. What exactly the error? Let's find out. Okay, there's no error. We are getting now the output. Okay, 20, 25, 30, and 40. This is the what we call another way to declare your array. Okay, that's the output. Okay, now we can also apply the for each loop for Java array. How to do that? Okay, when we are trying to print the Java array using the for each loop, the Java for each loop prints the array elements one by one. It holds an array element in a variable. Then it can execute the body of the loops. What is the syntax for that one? Right, the syntax for the for loop, it would be like this. For the data type, then variable, colon, then array. Okay, then curly brace inside, this will be your body of the loop, and then you close it. This is the syntax of for each loop with a combination of an array. So we can have the example for this one. Let's try to create another file here. I'm going to call this as sample again. This is sample array number. Okay, sample array using the for loop. Okay, using for loop, then Java. Okay, let's finish off with this one. So start off with the main method. Then next is we will initialize. I'll be using int again, arr. This is an array, referring to array or variable. You can use any term in here, or let's say a score, whatever you like. Then we're going to put here curly brace, not bracket, curly brace. Inside it, we can say 50, 35, 25, and 40, assuming we're going to have 4 numbers in here. Now, we will try to, on this part, we will try to print array using for its loop, okay, and this part of the code. So we will use the command for, then int I colon then arr, referring to this one. Now let's finish off this, then sys out. I'll just put in sys out. All right, where's the sys out? I'm going to call in the value of I. So what happened here in our code, dr in here is actually trying to call up this part, and this one contains the value 50, 35, 25, and 40. Now, if you're going to print it, you just call out the value I. So here, which is I, referring to this one, I, since this is an for loop, for use the for each loop, we call this one followed by semicolon. Now, if we're going to run this code, we will actually get this output, 50, 35, 25, and 40. Okay, we're done with our example using the for each loop using Java array. Now let's close this one. We're going to have another example This time, I'll be giving you an example which is related to passing array to a method in Java. This time, I'm going to create another file. I'm going to close this one first so we can create another file. So I'll be calling this one as a passing array. I'm going to create now a new file called passing and array. Okay, passing array as the class name. Okay, now we can pass a Java array to a method so that we can reuse the same logic on any array. Now let's try to write a sample code for us to visualize what is passing array to a method in Java. We will going to get the minimum number of array using a method. So let's start now. Okay, let's create first on this part. Okay, I'll be creating here. Just type down create a method which receives an array as a parameter. Okay, now let's start our code on this part. Supposed to be I write here the main method, but I have to start first with this one, creating a method which can receive an array as a parameter. In this case, I'm going to write out here static void, and assuming the minimum, this is my variable. Then inside my parameter, I'll call this one as an integer. Then I'll create called array, or just simply array as my variable name. You can put any variable name on this part. Now let's finish off this one. Create a curly brace. So inside of this, we're going to initialize int, then the min. We're going to assign the ARR, then value is 0 as our initial index. Right, enter. Now let's proceed, and we will combine this with the for loops. For, then int I, assuming I'm going to start with 1, then I less than ARR, calling the value of this. Then we're going to get the length. Same process. Oops. Okay, length, then followed by I plus plus. Now from here, we're going to add another condition. If the value of min is greater than the value of our length. Okay, this one. No, I think not this one. Nor I'm going to put a bracket here, then I, referring to this part. Now, after getting the result in this one, if ever it's true, then it will perform this. Assign the variable ARR to I. Now, semicolon. Then we're going to display now the, what you call this one, sys out. Okay. Then we're going to call the value of min. Now, for this time, we cannot run the code yet. As you notice, there is no run or debug because we're not yet on our main method. We need to finish off this one. So after this bracket, this is where we're going to put our main method. I'll just write down here the main method, and inside this part I initialize the integer, then a, and the A. So what is the meaning of this one again? The one with empty A? What do you think? If you can remember. Okay. This one, the A and then the bracket, we're talking about here the array length. Once you create an array, its length is actually fixed. You can refer to the length of an A then bracket with an empty bracket in your program with the code using this one, either A.length example or A. or ARR.length, something like that. Okay, now let's finish off with this one. Assuming our value for this is the one that we had earlier. What was it? The for loop. Okay, let me say I'll just copy this one, then paste it here. So we're going to put a comment out here, declare and initialize an array. So this is what we are doing in this part. Now to call the method, passing a method in Java array, go here main, then A. So what we're doing here, it's like this is where we apply the passing array to method. Okay, let's try to run this code, whether we get some error or let's try to double check first. Maybe something. Okay, let's correct this one. I mistakenly typed a double less than, so we have to remove the other one. Now let's try to run again. Let's see the output. I hope this one will run. Alright, let's wait for the output. Okay, there you are. We get an error on this side. Passing array 11. Okay, we get an error. We syntax error, insert semicolon to complete the block statement. Alright, we need to fix it. Which area we're getting an error? One by one, we need to review. Alright, I see it. We forgot to insert the semicolon in this area. Now, let's try to run again. Oh, there you are. We get our output, which is 25. Why? Why it's 25? Why it doesn't show the... Look at here. Why it's only showing the 25? Which is referring to, if you're going to count this 0, 1, 2. So we're in the 2. What do you think happened here? So, what do you think? Why we got the 25 instead in our output? Well, because we passed the array using a method, and based here, we start off with, let me say, I'm going to change this into 1. Let's see what will happen in our code. Still, it's 25. Does not affect anything, right? So the length, because we only have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, it does not really much. So if we're going to move down here, let's try to run again. There's any... Okay, still 25. Okay, even if we're going to change the value, let me say I'm going to change this into 33. This is 3 example, and this is 4, and this is 5. Let's try to run again this part. Okay, I'm just trying to double check what I had written here in my code. Maybe I missed something out. Right, minimum, this is the condition. Okay, let's try to run again. Run. We have the result, which is 3, meaning 0, 1. So after, it says here, if you're going to analyze the code, since we initialize the ARR to 0, which is given to min. Now it will proceed actually with the next part as we iterate here. Now if min is greater than I, then let's say cuba, it will move on to the next one. Example, if let me say I'm going to change this into 4, let's see what will happen in our code. We will get an error, out of bounds for length 4. Why is out? It's because you cannot have more than, in the size of your array is actually can read only up to 3, but you have written here as 4. As you can see here, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. And it means it cannot determine what are you talking about. It can only read up to the index 3. And why you put here 4? So that's why you get an error, out of bounds for length 4. Alright, now let's try to change this into 3. Let's see the output. Okay, still you get the 3 because of this one. We have this condition. If min is greater than I, unless we put here min greater than equal. So you try to play around with this one, so you will be able to find out what's the effect on your code. Alright, okay, now we're going to proceed to another example using the anonymous in Java. What is exactly an anonymous? It tries to support the feature of an anonymous array, so you don't need to declare the array while passing an array to the method. Now we're going to create another sample. Okay, I'll just create another file in here. We're going to call this one as anonymous array that Java as our example. Alright, now we're going to create a comment out, create a method which receives an array as a parameter. Okay, now first thing that we need to do, create our method, static void, and we call this one as parent array. This is only an example. This is a variable name that you can create on your own. So here inside the parentheses, we put our data type, then followed by, let me say, I'll use the variable ARR sample. Now, and here, curly brace, inside here, we combine this with a for loop. For INTI, initialize to 0, and then less than, we're calling the ARR, then length. Okay, this one. Okay, we'll just finish off this part. Now let's continue. Then we can say sys out. I just need to do the sys out. Right inside here, I can call up the value of our ARR. AIR bracket then I semicolon. And after this part, this is where we put our main method. Okay, let me title main. Now inside here, we're going to call this one the print array, or we will put down here print array. Now we call the new. Okay, I think I'm gonna use this instead of new array. I put this one as new int and then bracket and curly braces. This is where you put the number. Let me say 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is just an example. Now let's furnish it with, okay, furnish it anonymous array to method. Right, now let's see if I got the correct code. Let's try to run the code now. Code, I think I get an error. Which part I get an error? Let's try to double check. Length AIR, I think I missed to add here I. Okay, there you are. Now let's try to run again. There you are. We get now the output. So we have 20, 30, 40, and 50. This is what we call the anonymous array in Java. Okay. So let's add another example.